Okay, next we're going to take a look at data storage. Let's look at an overview of what we're going to cover. First, we're going to talk about how floppy drives are formatted and managed to store data. Then we'll look at how to use DOS to manage floppy drive storage. Then we'll look at how to replace or install a floppy disk drive. Then we'll switch gears and talk about how data is formatted and managed on hard drives, both with DOS as well as with the Windows 9X operating system. And finally, we'll look at how to install and troubleshoot hard drives. So in order to put data onto any type of disk, first we have to format that data. We're going to take a look at how data is physically and logically formatted onto both floppy drives and hard drives. First, let's take a look at the most common types of floppy drives. Some floppy drives can handle a storage capacity of 2.88 megabytes. These are very rare. Most people don't use this type of floppy drive. The floppy drives of the old days were the 5 1/4 inch double density and 5 1/4 inch high density disks. We hardly see these anymore either. The 3 1/2 inch double density, some of them are still around, but what we're going to use most often today are the 3 1/2 inch high density disks. If you look around you, you can probably find some right now. They have a storage capacity of 1.44 megabytes. Now that used to be a lot, but it's no longer a lot of data at all. It had 80 tracks per side and 18 sectors per side. And a sector is equal to a cluster. Now if that doesn't mean anything, if these terms don't mean anything yet, let's take a look at them to find some of those terms. A track is a concentric circle of a disk's surface. It's kind of like an old phonograph album where a track is one time around the disk. A sector is one pie-shaped segment of a track, and it almost always contains 512 bytes of data. So no matter where the sector is in the disk, it has to contain the same amount of data. So the shapes of sectors vary as we go towards the center of the disk. The ones on the outside will be thinner and longer, while the ones on the inside will be a little bit wider and deeper. A cluster, then, is a unit of data that can be read from or written to a disk at one time. It's also called a file allocation unit. So a cluster determines how many sectors we need in order to be able to put data in. And on most floppy disks that we use, the sector is equal to the cluster. So we can write data to just one sector. So formatting then is the process of preparing a new floppy disk for use by placing tracks on its surface which will store information. Let's take a look at how this is done physically. The ReadWrite Head is a sealed magnetic coil device that moves across the surface of a disk, and it reads or writes the data from the disk. The thing that controls where the ReadWrite Head is called the actuating arm. And the spindle spins the disk so that we can go around the tracks to get the data. So now that we know a little bit about how data is stored on a disk, in the next section we'll take a closer look at how data is actually formatted.